When I turned 20, my grandfather's old friend, now the richest man in the country, lays out photos of his grandsons in front of me. He says, pick one to be your husband. Without hesitation, I choose Nathaniel Chapman. Everyone in the room is stunned. After all, it's no secret I've always been hopelessly in love with George Chapman. I used to swear I'd marry no one but him. In my previous life, I got what I wanted. I married George. And because of that marriage, he inherited the lion's share of his grandfather's wealth. But after the wedding, he started an affair with my sister. My parents were furious and sent her abroad to study. George thought I was the one who exposed them. From then on, he hated me to my very core. Women came and went at his side, each one resembling my sister more than the last. The betrayal crushed me. I fell into deep depression. Later, he secretly replaced my medication with slow-acting poison. I died with a child in my womb, alone, bitter, and betrayed. Now, I've been reborn. This time, I choose to let them have each other. But what I don't expect is that George has been reborn too. I had just stepped out of Mr. Chapman Sr.'s study when I ran into George Chapman and his cousins. The moment they laid eyes on me, they scattered. But even as they walked away, they couldn't help but take jabs at me. Beatrice, here for George again? You really don't hold back, do you? Aren't you worried that your war hero grandpa's rolling in his grave, watching you throw yourself at a man like this? George, meanwhile, stared at me coldly. What are you doing here? He asked sharply. Are you trying to get grandpa to put in a good word for you again? You already brought up how your grandfather saved him in the war, didn't you? Haven't you milked that story enough? You know what, don't bother. You've already embarrassed me enough by turning our relationship into the talk of the town. I haven't made up my mind about the wedding. No matter who you run to, it won't make a difference. His eyes were filled with contempt and disgust. Just like in my previous life, my love had never been enough to move him. I let out a long breath before calmly saying, does this have anything to do with you? Mr. Chapman Sr. was the one who invited me. He's throwing a birthday party for me tomorrow. As soon as my words settled, George's cousins froze. What? Grandpa's hosting a party for you? One of them blurted. I knew exactly why they looked so stunned. Mr. Chapman Sr. hadn't involved himself in family affairs in years. Now that he was stepping in, it was clear this was more than just a birthday party. He had once told me that on my 20th birthday, I'd have to choose a husband from among the Chapman young men. Whoever I picked would inherit most of his personal estate and take over as the head of the family. After the initial shock wore off, George's cousins turned to George with teasing grins. Congrats, George. Don't forget about us once you're in charge, said one. Another chimed in, with Grandpa backing you, you can finally step into the big leagues. Congrats to you, too, Beatrice. After all these years of trying to win me over, it looks like you're finally getting what you want. You must be thrilled, George remarked, sarcasm dripping from his voice as he shot me an arrogant look. Then, he leaned in closer and whispered, but to avoid the same pathetic ending as last time, there's something you must agree to. Once we're married, we live separate lives. You stay out of my business. That's the only way I'm saying yes. His words sent a ripple of shock through me. I hadn't expected him to make such a ridiculous demand. I stared at him, suspicious. Had he been reborn, too? Just then, a kittenish voice piped up behind me. Beatrice? My younger sister, Isabella Layton, approached us. She wore a miniskirt, and a shy smile tugged at her lips. Every now and then, she'd let out a soft cough. Seeing that, George hurried over to her. You shouldn't be out when you're sick. Isabella lowered her head, looking pitiful. Georgie, it was my dad's idea. He didn't want Beatrice to come alone. George took her hand and glared at me. How pampered can you be? You need a chaperone just to leave the house, he spat. Can't you see Bella's not feeling well? Having said that, he led Isabella away. As they walked off, George glanced over his shoulder and warned, Beatrice Layton, if you keep acting like this, there's no way in hell I'm marrying you. His words made me chuckle. The truth was, I was the one who didn't want to marry him. It was the day of my birthday party. George didn't show up until the elders had gradually taken their leave, arriving with Isabella in tow. Her cheeks were flushed, and his neck bore bold red marks. Anyone who saw it could guess what they had just been doing. If this had been old me, I would have broken down right there, sobbing and demanding answers. How could they do such a thing? One was the man I loved, and the other was my sister, after all. Did my feelings mean nothing to them? But now, I only spared them a glance before turning back to chat with the people around me. George noticed my gaze lingering on the marks for just a moment. Instantly, he stepped in front of Isabella, shielding her. Seconds ticked by, and still, I didn't make a scene. My silence seemed to irritate him. He forced a smile and asked, Beatrice, you're not pretending to be all gracious just because you're afraid I won't marry you, are you? Well, that might be for the best. I'm going to be the head of the Chapman family soon. I can't be expected to stick to just one woman. There'll be plenty of ladies in my life. But since you're being so understanding today, I'll give you a little reward. With that, George pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Just as he was about to hand it to me, Isabella snatched it from his hand, exclaiming, this is gorgeous. Isn't this the limited edition bracelet from that luxury brand? It's impossible to get. George immediately withdrew his hand. Do you like it, Bella? Then it's yours. I shouldn't. This is your gift for Beatrice's birthday. I can't just take it, Isabella responded with a dry chuckle. However, her eyes stayed locked on me as she spoke, her tone dripping with triumph. Don't be silly. Just take it. As for her, I'll find something else later. As long as it's mine, she'll think it's perfect, said George. His humiliating words sent a ripple of low laughter through the room. Suddenly, memories from the past surged within me. At that moment, I realized it had once been true. I used to believe that anything George gave me was worth treasuring. I remembered bringing gifts to the Chapmans one holiday and getting caught in the rain. George had casually handed me a jacket, and I had kept it for years. Later, he caught me secretly sniffing it. How can you be so shameless? He had spat. That one sentence had crushed my teenage heart. I was utterly embarrassed. Back then, Mr. Chapman Sr. had even smacked him with his cane. She's just a young woman. What nonsense are you spouting? Even so, George simply laughed it off. After that, he exaggerated the story whenever he retold it. Before long, I had become a joke to everyone. Looking back now, all of it felt so pathetic. At that moment, I turned to leave, but George stopped me. What's the matter? Are you upset? Can't keep up the act anymore, huh? I knew it. An evil woman like you could never be understanding. He gripped my wrist tightly as he spoke. I looked down at his hand, then yanked myself free. Have some respect, Mr. Chapman. George froze momentarily before retorting. Respect? What for? Aren't you the one who's been dying to marry me? We'll be living together soon, so what's the act for? Who said I was marrying you? I shot back. A stunned silence fell over the room. A beat later, everyone burst into laughter. Who else would you marry? George responded with a sneer. You're obsessed with me. Do you really think you'd marry someone else? Besides, the only other eligible bachelor in my family is Nathaniel. But ever since his accident, he's been in bad shape. He's always sick, and no one knows how long he's got. I've even heard that certain abilities of his are damaged. Do you want to spend your life with a man who can't give you anything? Chapter 3. Everyone in the room fell silent. All eyes were on me as they waited for my response. Right then, someone wheeled Nathaniel Chapman into the room. He looked genuinely ill, so weak that he couldn't leave his wheelchair. A knowing smile spread across everyone's faces at that sight. I was about to declare that I would marry Nathaniel when Mr. Chapman Sr.'s words came to mind. Since you've chosen Nathaniel, I respect your decision, he had said. But for now, don't say anything. Everyone will know once things settle. After a moment's hesitation, I stopped myself from speaking. Nathaniel didn't say anything either. He calmly glanced at me, but I caught a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. I understood Mr. Chapman Sr.'s concerns. The Chapman family was enormous, and every one of them had their eyes set on his fortune. So, I chose not to argue with George. Instead, I let them laugh as much as they wanted, then walked away. Isabella and I were in the same car on the way home. She sat beside me and smugly flicked her wrist. The diamonds caught the light, sparkling so brightly that I had to squint. So what if you marry George? You'll never truly win his heart, she remarked. To everyone else, Isabella was the epitome of a sweet, harmless woman. But in private, her true nature showed. As I studied her, I couldn't help but remember the time I caught her and George in bed in my previous life. She had curled up in his arms, trembling like a scared child. He, on the other hand, had been afraid I'd hurt her. So, he shielded her. The shock of it had been so intense that I'd fainted right there. After that incident, my parents sent Isabella to study abroad. She then married an heir living overseas. Her life had been far better than mine. But in this life, I decided to let her have George. I wanted to see how things would unfold for her. With that in mind, my lips curled into a faint smile as I said, "You're right. What's the point of having him if I can't win his heart? I hope you grow up quickly and marry him soon. I wish you both a lifetime of happiness." For a moment, Isabella looked taken aback. A second later, she raised a brow and chuckled. "You can pretend it doesn't bother you. But no matter what, George loves me." Some time later, Thanksgiving arrived. Once again, my father asked me to deliver some gifts to Mr. Chapman Sr. As soon as I entered the Chapman residence, I ran into Isabella. It had been days since she'd last gone home. Dressed in a designer gown and matching jewelry, she exuded elegance. Isabella smiled faintly when she saw me. "Beatrice, do you like my outfit? George gave me all of this." I told him I wasn't into flashy stuff, but he insisted. He even said I'm the only one who deserves things like this. Annoyance bubbled up inside me. I frowned and tried to walk past her, yet she stepped right into my path. "Beatrice, I just wanted to share my happiness with you. Why are you being so cold? I know you're jealous of me, but love isn't something anyone can control." The moment she finished speaking, tears started streaming down her face. I reached out to push her aside. To my surprise, she collapsed dramatically onto the floor, wailing louder than before. "Beatrice, how could you hit me? I'm your sister." Then, right on cue, George stormed in. "Beatrice Layton, what the hell are you doing?" he barked, glaring at me. "Are you seriously mistreating your own sister? Do you even have a heart?" My gaze flicked from George to Isabella. Then, I let out a chuckle. "I can't believe it, Isabella. You're so young, and yet you've already stooped to such dirty tricks." No sooner had the words left my mouth than George slapped me.